Hello everyone. I'm gonna try to go through a quick video. This is take 2, so you are very lucky because the take 1 was half an hour, so we're gonna try to knock that down to about 10 minutes. So I'm only gonna go through a few of these questions, so just a quick overview. I'll take a look at this first one here, and we'll take a look at this one here. And I'll take a look at 2 of these because there's a couple different ways that we can do it. And judging on our time, I might do one of these just in a separate video. Okay, so let's get at it. So looking at this one here, we need to identify the square root of 104. So the easiest way for me to do an estimate for these is let's use a couple number lines here. So make sure that you give yourself lots of room when you do these on your worksheet. On here, I didn't really give myself a ton of room. So looking at this here, you're going to identify two perfect squares that are on each side of 104. So in this case, we're going to be looking at 100. And on the other side here, we're going to be looking at 121. And we know that 10 times 10 is 100, and 11 times 11 is 121. So you want to make sure that these are consecutive perfect squares, the ones on each side of 104. Okay, so now looking at 104, we are going to add some more lines into our number line here. So we're going to cut this in half. There's 21 numbers, but we're going to make our lives easy. We're going to say it's 20. We're doing some estimates. So we're going to say about half is 110. It doesn't have to be exact. We just need to have a reference point for this 104. And again, if we wanted to cut that in half, 105. Okay, I wrote a little cheat sheet up above here. So, if you want to take a look, this part here, I would strongly encourage that you write that down. That's going to help you frame our bottom number line, because we start with 10, so we're going to have 10.25, 10.5, and 10.75 as our points here. So looking at 104, and switch colors so you can easily see this, we know that 104 is slightly smaller than 105, so I'm going to eye it up here. So if it's slightly smaller than 105, I'm going to be also looking at the inside of this point here. So it's going to be slightly smaller than 10.25. So we would say our approximation is roughly 10.2. Okay, let's move on to a little bit of a trickier one. I am going to take a look at, take a look at this second one here instead of this first one. We're going to take a look at this one here. Okay, so 84. I do this 84.5. So I do the same thing. Need two number lines. Taking a look here, the perfect squares on each side. So I know I have a square root of 81. And again, I have a square root of 100. Square root of 81 is the same as, or not the same, but it equals 9, right? 9 times 9 is 81. And to get to our square root of 100, we have to go 10 times 10. So the answer of a square root of 100 is 10. Okay, so taking a look here, 84.5, we are going to identify our middle points. So we have how many numbers between 81 and 100 is what I'm going to ask myself. The answer is 19. And I say, I'm going to make my life easier. We're going to say it's 20 because we're making estimates. Okay, so if I add 10 to each, that would be about 91. And again, if I was to cut this in half, I would say it's about 86, right? A 5 on each side. I'm not going to worry about this side because I know that my number is 84.5. It needs to be smaller than 91. Smaller than 91, but greater than 81. So we are in this section, okay? And same thing, we're just going to add our numbers that we need down here. So 9.5 25 and 9.5. Okay, so again, I'm asking myself, 84.5, is it closer to 81? Is it closer to 86? Well, I'll tell you what, I think it's going to be closer to 86. So I'm going to put it kind of right in here. And again, making a judgment call as to where I'm drawing my line, looking at these bottom numbers, asking myself, is it bigger than 9.25 or a little bit smaller? I think it's a little bit smaller, so our answer is going to be 9.20. Okay, our answer is approximately 9.20. That's what that little dot is above, is our approximation. So make sure that you add your approximation. That tells us that you are estimating. Okay, moving on to these two examples here. So on these ones here, 8.5. Okay, so 8.5. There's a couple different ways that you can do this. One way is if your numbers are right next to perfect squares or very, very close, what we can do is we can say, oh, well, I know that 9 is a perfect square. I also know that 4 is a perfect square. I can easily find the square roots of those numbers. So we know our answer could be approximately 3 over 2, because we know that the square root of 9 and the square root of 4 is 2 times 2, 3 times 3, right? That's how we get the 9 and the 4. So I know that my answer is going to be approximately 3 over 2. Okay, another way that you can do this is if you have a nice number like a 10 in your bottom denominator position. This is a really handy thing to use that converts it into a decimal. So we can go 3 divided by 10, and you're going to get the square root of 30. So very similar to kind of what we did last day, but we'll do it kind of on our number line. Is you're going to have to identify a couple points here. Because we are using a number under 1, right? There's no 1 in our ones place here. We're just going to go like this. So we're going to identify our square roots of 0.25 and our square roots of 0.36. Because we know we can identify some of these points down here. So I know that the square root of 0.25 is 0.5, and I know the square root of 0.36 is 0.6. And again, same thing as what we did above. We need to identify kind of that middle point. And again, I ask myself, is 0.30 closer to 0.25, or is it closer to 0.36? The answer is it's going to be closer to 0.25, but it's going to be very, very close to that middle point. So again, down here, my middle point is going to be 0.55. I might say that this, the square root of 3 over 10 is approximately 0.54, because we know it has to be just short of our 0.55. Okay, so hopefully that made sense there. So that is the video. I strongly encourage you to take a look at these extra questions. I will zoom out. I would strongly encourage you to take a look and try these ones on your own to ensure that you are understanding with those number lines. Perfect.